Boom. Welcome back, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you.
How are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You look like a man who is dealing with a considerable amount of stress, but is handling it well.
Yeah, well, I hope that's true.
And there was this one that you went on television. We talked about the last time you were here with this very bizarre androgynous person that was saying there's no gender, there's no biological basis for gender, which is just complete insanity, and you shooting that down.
Yeah, well, it might be insanity, but it's Canadian law now, or soon to be federally, so it's insanity for sure, but it's the kind of insanity that's going to have legal force very soon.
What is specifically? That
well,
there's
the policy, with Bill C-16, which was the bill that I was complaining about, or criticizing, let's say, there's a variety of surrounding policy documents that are derived from the Ontario Human Rights Commission, and they indicate quite clearly that you're to regard biological sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual proclivity as varying independently, which of course they don't. By any stretch of the imagination, they're so tightly correlated that, well, you can't use correlation to imply cause or to infer causality, but Jesus, when the correlations are above 0.95, you have to start wondering if there's actually not some causal link, and it's absurd to me that we really even have to have that discussion. But the notion, and this is being taught to school kids, this is mainstream doctrine, Joe. I mean, look up the gender unicorn. That's a fun thing to look up. I mean,
what is the gender unicorn?
The gender unicorn is this little happy symbol that's being marketed to children, in elementary school, describing to them the fact that biological sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual proclivity vary independently. They're going after them very young. And so that's part of the school system now in many, many places.
So in many ways, it's sort of an indoctrination. They're trying to...
You might say that, yeah.
The gender unicorn.
The gender unicorn, man. Check that thing out.
Gender identity, female, woman, girl, male, man, boy, other genders, gender expression, feminine, masculine, other, sex assigned at birth, female, male, other, intersex. Ooh, like aliens. Physically attracted to men, women, other gender, S.
Yes,
emotionally attracted.
So what you do if you're a kid is you put a little marker there on the arrow to show where you're located on all those independent dimensions. And obviously, if you look at the style of the gender unicorn, you can tell what sort of age it's aimed at, because that looks like it's certainly not aimed at kids over, I would say, 10.
Yeah, why does the gender unicorn have a double helix DNA symbol where its penis or vagina should be?
That's to indicate that there's no such thing as biology, I presume.
But why? That's how ironic.
Yeah, you might say so. Yeah,
it's a weird place to put it over the crotch of the unicorn.
Yeah, there's an indefinite number of weird things about that. Yes, there's the genderbred person. That's a
genderbred person has a male symbol, female symbol, and then a what am I all together with a circle. Is that a hole? It's not a hole. Circle. It's a strange, problematic place for the circle, I would say. Very assumptive.
I would say so, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, I don't like that at all. I feel triggered.
Well,
the whole thing is, it's so bizarre.
Well, there's an interesting angle on the transsexual thing too, because these activists, they stand out and claim that they're standing for oppressed communities, right? And first of all, they identify the identity group that they're activating on the part of as a community, and then they imply that it's a homogenous community, and then they state that because they happen to be members of that community by their own admission, let's say, or by their own declaration, that's a better word, that they are now legitimate representatives of that community. And one of the things that's been quite fascinating to me since this has occurred is that I've had a comparatively large number of letters from transgender people, about 35 so far, and every one of those except one was positive. They are not happy about my sampling of the trans community, which isn't, it's not a random sample or anything like that, but 35 letters is a lot when the community of people is actually quite small. And they're not happy at all. They're not happy to be so publicly discussed now, because many of them would just as soon have some privacy, and they're already having trouble fitting in. They don't regard these people as legitimate representatives. They don't believe, they're not homogenous in their political viewpoints, you know, and they're not necessarily fans of the people who are playing gender bender games, because many of the transsexuals who are, let's say, serious about it, you know, for lack of a better way of describing it, aren't happy that this has become a kind of a fad, essentially, and that they're being used by the politically correct types to further their political agenda. So that's quite cool too, because it isn't obvious to me at all that the attitude that I have towards the situation is actually different in any genuine sense than the attitude that at least a substantial minority of the transsexual people themselves have. And there's plenty of them on YouTube who are complaining about the social justice appropriation of their
Movement.
identity.